Justin Trudeau's Minister of Nothing, Bill Blair, struck again today and was thankfully called to account by the Canadian media for an idiotic statement that he made. Now, as many of you will know, Minister Bill Blair was appointed by Justin Trudeau to cabinet without firing the immigration minister or the public safety minister. He hired Bill Blair with a big salary and a driver, and of course had nobody report to him, no department reports to Bill Blair, simply to communicate on an issue which is very important to Canadians, and that is the illegal border crossing crisis, but not to actually do anything to fix it. So I came to you yesterday with a video talking about the fact that finally we're starting to get some reports in the mainstream media in Canada about the fact that we're seeing major backlogs in the review process or the claim screening process for people that are illegally crossing the border into Canada and making asylum claims, and that many of those asylum claims are false. Imagine that. You've reached upstate New York, you're crossing into Canada illegally, you're saying that you're fleeing persecution from upstate New York. Of course, many of those asylum claims are going to be found invalid. But rather than trying to stop that problem from happening by closing the loophole in the Safe Third Country Agreement, as Conservatives have been calling on Justin Trudeau to do for 2 years, all Justin Trudeau has done is try to make that situation permanent by spending hundreds of millions of dollars and then by hiring Bill Blair to try and communicate why this isn't a problem. So today, in response to this article that came out yesterday talking about the huge backlogs that are being created, Bill Blair says the following. I'll read you the excerpt from the article. Border Security Minister Bill Blair says money set aside in this year's federal budget to hire 64 new adjudicators for the refugee system will reduce the 20-month wait for a hearing. But the independent tribunal that oversees the process says the extra staff will at most slow the growth of the queue. So what this article goes on to talk about, if you want to read it, it's basically Bill Blair's coming out, of course, with his job, Minister of Nothing, to say, no, there's nothing to see here. It's fine. Don't worry. Everything's going to be okay. So he makes this outrageous statement saying, oh, yeah, we hired some more judges and, it's going to totally eliminate the backlog. It's going to be fine. Don't worry about that. It's going to reduce the wait time. But then the actual independent board itself, the Immigration Refugees Board, said, no. So maybe if they had reported into him or something, or the actual immigration minister had been called upon to make this statement, this clear disconnect in information wouldn't have happened. So, but also just I don't use the term idiotic statement lightly, because think about this. All we've seen year over year is that the number of people who have been illegally entering Canada from the United States to claim asylum, we've seen that number. All we've seen is that number grow. That number just continues to grow. So if that number continues to grow, then the backlog at the IRB, or the Immigration Refugee Board, what's going to happen there? Well, it's also going to grow, right? Especially if the rate of people coming into Canada continues to exponentially expand over time. So because the government has done nothing to stop people from coming into Canada this way, it goes without saying that we're going to continue to see a growth in backlog. Now, earlier this morning or earlier this week, I saw a tweet from the actual Department of Immigration, and I'm going to put that up for you here. What it says is hey, it's trying to discourage people from coming into Canada this way. It's look, if you come into Canada illegally and then cross and then try to claim asylum, there's no guarantee you can stay in Canada. Come on. Nobody believes that, because here's the reality, and the reality is outlined in this article that I just read to you from. There are years-long waits for somebody who illegally crosses into Canada from Roxham Road today, they're not going to have their claim heard for years. And in the meantime, they can access any of the resources of the state. In fact, Justin Trudeau's putting hundreds of millions of dollars into programs to support social welfare, expedited work permits, housing at hotels, transportation. I mean, somebody is going to come into Canada and sit for at least 2 years, according to this article, probably a lot more as the backlog grows, and they have access to those resources. Then they have access to an appeals process if they do get a negative decision. So then there's even more time. And that appeals process, I'm sure, is backlogged too. And then after, let's say that they get a final no decision on that at that point in time, it's going to be an indefinite period of time before they're actually removed. And in fact, the statistics that we have right now, that my office has shown, is that the number of people out of 28,720 people who have illegally entered Canada from the United States to claim asylum, only 0.5%, so 157, have actually been removed from Canada. So what does that tell people? That tweet that IRCC put out is just, it's such weak sauce, right? The only way to fix this problem is to close the loophole in the Safe Third Country Agreement by renegotiating the agreement with the Americans, but also at the same time looking at legislative options that we have within our own purview to stop people from coming into the country this way. And many of you know that I have put forth concrete recommendations around the fact that we have these legislative tools at our disposals. Canada is a sovereign country, and we have the right to sovereignty on our borders, and that's what Parliament is for. So look, I want to be very clear about this. What is happening needs to stop, and a Conservative government, that would be probably one of our first orders of business outside of stopping Justin Trudeau's carbon tax to ensure that this loophole is closed, because our asylum system is being abused. So Minister Bill Blair, Minister of Nothing, at least talk to your department before you put out lies to the Canadian public. Working hard for you in Calgary. Have a great day.